I said good day, sir.
You don't ever plan anything around the eagles because the eagles represent the grace of God.
Okay.
You heathen bastards.
What a vanilla nebbish name.
Well, orcs are people too.
I'm thinking of that one cult that got taken out with one punch. So he's got a wall,
Okay.
a gall, and a wall. Every time you mention the Eagles, I think Don Henley. This is a Geek History of Time,
where we connect nerdery to the real world. I'm Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher and an English teacher 1/5 of my day here in Northern California, and the father of a now little over 2-year-old little boy.
Ooh.
Who I was very proud to see that earlier this afternoon when I got home, he picked up the wooden toy sword that we got for him at a Scottish festival earlier this school year, and he did a very good job half swording as he came at me and got me in the calf with it.
Nice.
And laughed. and as a lapsed fencer, I was deeply, deeply proud in that moment. Who are you, sir?
I'm Damian Harmony. I'm a Latin teacher and part-time history teacher on occasion here in Northern California as well. A father of 2, a 10-year-old who, in our last game, he was invisible and stole the sword out of its scabbard from the big bad evil guy who was attacking my daughter, who's 7.5. And the weapons that the dude had were amazing, and my son stole it and hid it and was over the moon at the fact that he succeeded at that.
No kidding.
In the final battle.
That is some A+ problem solving right there.
My
that is a wizardly solution to what is normally a fighter problem.
Yes.
So as a graduate of fighter college myself, I appreciate that out-of-the-box thinking.
And a 7.5-year-old who has developed a love of the game Mortal Kombat. It's awesome.
I have many concerns.
Oh, no. Don't worry about it. So I taught her that the best part is that like you can switch styles. Right, okay. So it's Mortal Kombat Deception. It's from a while back.
Okay.
I think it's back when Xbox was still Xbox.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I was still teaching at a charter school. So
this is a while
prior
back.
to this is a few
the dark times
administrations ago.
Yeah.
And she really liked because she was holding up a stick, and I was like, oh, that's a joystick. That's not a quarterstaff. And she said, well, what's that? And I said, oh, it's like what this character uses. She said, who's that? I'm like, oh, let's go check him out. And I showed her Bo Rai Cho. And then I was like, look, if you switch through his styles, you'll see he does sumo and drunken fist. And she's like, oh, like the Jackie Chan movie. I was like, that's right. And then
I know you're an atheist, but I got to say you're doing God's work.
So. That works. That's why God made atheists.
All right. Yeah, well, true.
So, yeah. But, yeah, that's... Think
what an atheist would do in your place and then do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so she was really digging the multiple styles, and she's really getting into that as a game.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's fun exploring video games with my kids. So,
yeah.
I don't know the right age. I was 5 when I saw Conan the Barbarian.
So you're
I don't know the right age to show my kids Conan.
I'm
it's not yet.
Say not yet.
Yeah.
I'm knowing your kids to the extent I know, having met your kids a few times. I'm going to say I think Julia. Well, obviously Julia is the more precocious of the two of them. But I still don't think I'd show it to her first.
Right.
I think, and we're going to talk about. It might be this episode. It might be the next one. But the themes of the movie. You might want to wait a little while.
I would agree.
Yeah. I'd say at least adolescence.
Yeah.
At least.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but we're both children of the 80s and 90s, and so
we watched stuff way too early.
Way too early.
Yeah. As soon as it could get gotten from the rental store.
Yeah,
we ended up seeing it.
We wound up having it. Yeah.
So speaking of Conan, last episode
we were of course talking about the roots of the character,
right?
How the character was so popular, why Conan is the creation of Howard's that has lasted so long compared to Sailor Steve Costigan, who like nobody. If I mention that, I'm as a low key Robert E. Howard nerd.
Sure,
I know that name. Not because I haven't read any of those stories, but I know that name because I know about Howard and his work. If I mention that name to anybody who's not a deep geek, they have no idea who the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't have told you.
Sailor what?
Yeah,
Sailor Bob. What?
Right?
What? Huh? And you mentioned Red Sonja, and they immediately think of Mrs. Sylvester Stallone. I'm forgetting her name right
Brigitte
now.
Nielsen.
Brigitte Nielsen.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Famke Janssen. I knew I was wrong.
Yeah.
They think of Brigitte Nielsen with a mullet, in the 80s movie.
Yes.
And like. No, I'm talking about the Robert E. Howard character, who you looked up, who the mercenary, who the historical figure was that inspired her, and it's important that we note that.
Yeah, it's Roxolana, the Ruthenian harem girl who married an Ottoman sultan, Suleiman the Magnificent.
Yes,
she married him.
Yeah.
So apparently she was a badass.
Yes.
Yes.
So, getting back to talking about Conan and the character and Howard, we were talking about why this character had the appeal that he did. We were talking about how the Frazetta covers, if you just look at the covers of those books, that Conan, that visual Conan embodies strength. He embodies this masculine ideal.
Right.
He's a superhero figure. He is a Superman. And he is, again, my thesis, he's the id to the superego represented by Superman.
Right.
From roughly the same time period. Both of them being these figures of escapism, both of them being these figures of wish fulfillment.
Right.
But one of them is Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties with superpowers, and the other one is a cynical, bloody, I cannot emphasize enough the bloody, sellsword and burglar.
Right.
I mean, you look at him from a moral angle, and they could not be more opposite. But it's not that Conan is evil. Conan is simply amoral.
Let me ask you this:
his code of honor has nothing to do with his code of honor is based around strength. It's,
right.
Look, you have this thing, you're not using this thing, but you want to hold on to it. I need that thing so I can pay for food.
Right.
And so I'm faster than you are, and I think I'm more cunning than you are.
Right.
So I'm going to take it.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
The author for Conan,
yes,
Howard, born and raised on the frontier in Texas.
Yes.
Had a father who was in some ways a schemer.
Yeah.
Deeply devoted to his mother, as you said.
Yep. Living
in a place that is, quite frankly, hyper racist at that time.
Yes.
And that's just
immensely.
Yeah. And it's just baked into the culture there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have the guys who created Superman.
Yeah. Hyper urban. Themselves minority, Jewish.
Themselves immigrants. One of whose father was killed in a robbery.
Yes.
Hence the bulletproof man.
Yeah.
You have a cultural difference there. You have a regional difference there. You have a religious difference there. You have Superman who sticks to the 10 Commandments, whatever they are for Superman.
Yeah.
And you have this other guy who is amoral, which is essentially the 10 Commandments of West Texas.
Yeah.
What, you can do it? Oh, you can have it. It's that. Yeah. So, am I off in this analysis?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I'm about to get into it.
Oh, cool. Sorry to steal your thunder.
No. Because the thing is, Howard's Conan stories, at the end of it all, and he wrote to, I'm about to use the literary present tense, but we're talking about letters, so I shouldn't, but he wrote to Lovecraft, remember, in the Lovecraft circle. and this is where we need to talk about I talked about them having this dramatically different paradigm of like how the universe worked.
Right.
And Howard believed in barbarian virtue and civilization being a decadent, corrupting force.
Oh wow, that's so opposite of
utterly reversed from I'm forgetting their names, the creators of Superman, Siegel and Schuster.
Yes.
I knew Schuster was in there, but I couldn't remember.
And I wanted to say Simon and Schuster, but that wasn't
no,
right.
it's wrong.
Yeah.
But Siegel and Schuster were urbanites.
Yes.
Like New York, or like can't get more urban.
The very civilization that this guy disdains.
That this guy disdains.
Right.
And what's interesting is Lovecraft was also in the Northeast, although Massachusetts. And
that makes so much sense too.
And he was a kind of blue blood descendant of Pilgrim families.
Okay.
And his whole outlook was man is by nature desperately, desperately chaotic and violent and unpredictable. And it is only civilization that prevents us all from destroying everything.
God, that's so Pilgrim.
So Pilgrim. It is so immensely Puritan.
Yeah.
So desperately, desperately Calvinist.
Yes.
Like, it's so Calvinist it fucking hurts. Like, oh my God, yeah. And so the funny thing is, I mean, these guys genuinely were, ride or die best friends who had never met in real life, but they had this intense bond over the craft of writing and the stuff that they were creating.
Oh, wow.
And they had a diametrically opposed view of the nature of humanity and the basic role of civilization. And so the thing is, you got to look at where it is they're coming from. Like I said, Lovecraft is in the Northeast in this Puritan stronghold where all of the culture was the forest is evil,
right?
The forest is chaotic.
You beat back the devil.
Primeval. You got to beat back. You got to beat back the devil. You got to carve civilization out of the benighted wilderness.
Protestant as hell.
Desperately Protestant.
And like you said, Calvinist Protestant.
Hard like. We don't think the other Protestants are sufficiently Protestant.
Right.
Like the Church of England is a new Babylon. Like
yes. Yeah. They're too warm and fuzzy.
They're too warm and fuzzy and
we're going to leave so we can cut off each other's hands.
Yes, and they play instruments in church.
Right.
And that's just decadent.
Right.
Right? Like
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so that's the cultural background that Lovecraft is coming from.
So you've got the
and then on the other end, in literally, I mean, essentially the other end of the country.
Yeah, the
you have Howard, and Howard believed that civilization, like I said, was a decadent, corrupting force because he was in Cross Plains when the oil boom hit.
Right.
The town's population mushroomed overnight. It I remember the statistics. It exploded. And so what happened in Cross Plains was it became crowded, it became busy, it became impersonal. And a whole bunch of soft-handed business types showed up to make money off of the labor of roughnecks and the blue-collar frontier types that had been there before and who showed up to do all the labor that was involved in getting the crude out of the ground.
So you've got the literary equivalent of a priest, a rabbi, and a minister.
Pretty much, yeah.
With these three guys,
with this troika, with this triad we've created, If I had thought more about the id versus superego, Conan versus Superman thing, I'd have spent more time looking at Siegel and Schuster. But that's perfect. Yeah, no, you're totally correct.
Oh wow. Okay.
And actually, now that we have that figured out, here's what I'm going to say. In terms of the writers, Siegel and Schuster are ego. Lovecraft is super ego, and Howard is all id. All id all the time.
Yep.
And so, to a reader in the 1930s, this distrust of civilizations could easily be mapped onto a distrust of corporations, investors, banks.
Yep.
To a reader in the 70s, this could really easily be mapped onto a distrust of foreigners, oil cartels, and the Soviet menace.
Oh, I thought you were going to say corporations, Wall Street, banks.
True.
But, it all just kind of rhymes.
Yeah, but more immediately.
Yes.
And then Howard also saw violence as being a critical part of life. Mm-hmm. For him, violence was an inextricable, vital force. Mm-hmm. The struggle involved in violence gave life meaning and gave it value to him.
Well, even the very act of oil derricks, you are
punching
stabbing the
hole
earth
in the ground
so it bleeds.
Yeah,
and then you live off of that blood.
Yeah,
that is yeah.
He saw violence as a primal thrill and a defining aspect of masculine virtue. Mm-hmm. And now we get back to what I mentioned briefly talking about Hemingway. Mm-hmm. Hemingway, having been forced to be girlified by his mother longer than was normal for the time period, had this
and it was normal for the time period.
It was normal for the time period,
yes.
But his mother overdid it.
Sure.
And so he had this reaction of having to be. He put this immense pressure on himself to be the character that we know Hemingway to be, and then he started getting old, and his body started falling apart, and he couldn't be that anymore. And he was also depressed and an alcoholic.
Right.
And that led to him taking his life. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, there's grist for the mill there to talk about Howard also having these really profound ideas about masculinity and all this, and having this very, very fierce but brittle kind of front. And then when he suffered this incredible shock of finding out that his mother, who was the emotional center of his life, was never going to wake up, that was the trigger that led to him ending his own life. And so Howard, talking about these ideas about violence, he was a boxer. This is where he got the inspiration for Sailor Steve Costigan. He was a boxer. He was an amateur boxer. And he wrote to Lovecraft. I've got a long quote here from a letter he wrote to Lovecraft about a boxing match he'd fought in. A bare-knuckle boxing match.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, like let's talk about toxic masculinity for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is him writing to Lovecraft. Looking back over a none too lengthy and prosaic life, I can easily pick out what seemed, and still seems, the peak of my life to date. That is, the point at which I derived the highest thrills, a word which my limited vocabulary causes me to overwork. When I look for the peak of my exultation, I find it on a sweltering, breathless midnight, when I fought a black-haired tiger of an Oklahoma drifter in an abandoned ice vault, in a stifling atmosphere laden with tobacco smoke and the reek of sweat and rot-gut whiskey and blood, with a gang of cursing, blaspheming oil-field roughnecks for an audience. Even now, the memory of that battle stirs the sluggish blood in my fat-laden tissues. There was nothing about it calculated to advance art, science, or anything else. It was a bloody, brutal, merciless brawl. We fought for fully an hour, until neither of us could fight for any longer, and we reeled against each other, gasping incoherent curses through battered lips. There was not even an excuse for it. We were fighting not because there was a quarrel between us, but simply to see who was the best man. Yet I repeat that I get more real pleasure out of remembering that fight than I could possibly get out of contemplating the greatest work of art ever accomplished, or seeing the greatest drama ever enacted, or hearing the greatest song ever sung. Robert E. Howard, writing to H.P. Lovecraft, September 22nd, 1932.
Okay, I gotta say, everything that you just read sounds exactly like the Futurist Manifesto. I don't know. Have you read that? I
haven't.
So
but I know the points.
Yeah. The artist talks about he's driving a car and it's 1910, right? Yeah. And he's laying out
pre-World War I. Yeah. World War I killed them all off.
Yeah, exactly.
As you pointed out, every time futurism has come up. Yeah.
But there's a wonderful story about futurism in a cartoon that my kids and I watched. Okay. Yeah. But he's laying out on a car at night, and then he decides to go speeding. And I assume speeding is like 25 miles an hour. Because it's 1910.
1910, it might be as high as 40.
Okay.
But cool. Okay.
But he goes speeding. He falls into and he talks about like the smokestacks that are snakes are coming down to kiss from the clouds.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And he talks about how he lays
romantic language.
Very.
Yeah.
And he crashes into a pit, a drainage pit, an industrial waste drainage pit, and he climbs out, and he talks about how the pipes on the car are these wonderful things that course power through it, and how after he gets out of the crash, he just feels so fucking good.
Adrenaline is a hell of a drug,
and he's just covered in sewage and raw waste of and he talks about how there's nothing so beautiful as this car, and he's like, you dare compare the Champs-Élysées with it, or whatever thing it was. And he says, we should destroy all the museums, we should do all this. And so it's this this comparison of this great art, nothing compared to this machine that represents the future.
To the thrill of
right. And he says we sing the virtue of the fisticuff, he even says, and stuff like that. So I mean,
well, this is
Howard must have been jerking off to that.
I'm sure if he ever read
or if
Futurism,
or if he ever jerked off.
Yeah. It's actually a standing question whether or not he did. He
seems a little incel-y, to be honest.
No, he dated.
Oh, he did?
He did. Okay. Yeah. There's actually I have only seen bits of it, but there was a movie made that was a biopic of him.
Oh.
That was about the year and a half that he was in a relationship with a woman.
Okay.
And about the tempestuous nature of that relationship because of his being hung up on his mother and him being the outsized kind of character that he was. So going so far as to say incel might be a bit much,
too much.
But he was prudish.
Okay.
He had quite the appetite for actually prudish might be the wrong word. He had some hang-ups.
Okay.
Would be a better way to put it. And yeah.
So just real quick, the Futurist Manifesto. He's several articles, like Article 1 through 10. In Article 10, we want to demolish museums and libraries, fight morality, feminism, and all opportunist and utilitarian cowardice.
Wow.
They say that. In Article 9, they define war as being a necessary thing for the health of the spirit, and the purification that war allows helps idealism. And they talk about the hygienic properties of glorification of war, which absolutely takes you direct line to fascism.
Oh yeah.
And it was a man named Marinetti. That was that was what it was.
Of course, it was a guy. Yeah. Of course, it was an Italian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Filippo Tommaso Marinetti.
For a variety of reasons, it kind of had to be an Italian. Either an Italian or a Spaniard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
go on.
So the violence in those stories is cathartic, immensely cathartic for the reader, especially tied to Howard's energetic prose, which I've already quoted. And it creates an outlet for the reader's latent frustrations in times like the 30s and the 70s that held a really potent appeal. Okay. Now, I'm glad that you brought up futurism.
Okay.
Because
most people never are.
Yeah,
most people. To be fair,
in this context,
to be fair, they're usually saying "Sir, this is a Pete's." So
that's good.
It's
nice.
Thank you.
Twist on that meme.
Thank you.
I like that. But there is a really powerful Darwinist underpinning to all of this.
Darwinist or eugenicist? Or are we talking like Herbert Spencer type shit?
I don't think it's Herbert Spencer, but it is Darwinist. It is struggle. It is fittest organism.
Okay.
It is
nature, red and tooth and claw.
Nature. That's brilliant.
Tennyson.
Yes. Tennyson's description. It is the nature of man is just as red as the nature of everything else.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
It revels in the id. These stories are wrapped up in many of the later ones. And this is a funny note. The early published stories, not the ones that happened early in Conan's life, but the ones that are published earlier. there are not very many female characters. It's all very, Conan fighting with other dudes.
Right.
Getting hired by other dudes. All of the major characters, with the exception of the Frost Giant's daughter.
Mm-hmm. I assume she's a MacGuffin.
Basically.
Yeah.
Who nearly gets him killed. It's actually a wonder for a very short, very violent fantasy story. Mm-hmm. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but the early stories don't involve a lot of that. The later stories, you start seeing there's always some buxom, lithe, girl.
Yeah.
Woman. And the reason for that is because if your story got featured on the cover of the magazine, you got paid a bonus. And one of the surest ways to get your story on the cover of the magazine was have a girl in it.
Right.
That could be put on the cover of the magazine nearly naked. H.P. Lovecraft was a prude. And we know from his correspondence and his complaints to the editors of Weird Tales and a bunch of other things, he used to pull the cover. He used to take the covers off of his copies of Weird Tales because he was scandalized by the cheesecake. Now, of course, printing standards in the 30s were different than they are now, and they got away with some stuff that you wouldn't see on a mainstream science fiction magazine anymore. But yeah, he was just like. Lovecraft might have been an incel.
Okay.
I mean, without the misogyny, I don't think he was necessarily hateful of women. Right. I'm sure there's a more educated Lovecraft scholar who would probably tell me, oh yeah, no, he was a total misogynist because he was a complete racist. Mm-hmm. Arguably, he was more racist than Howard. Mm-hmm. And they were both really racist. Mm-hmm. The depiction of essentially Africans in the Conan stories is it does not age well.
It's a product of its time.
It is bad. It is a product of its time,
which was a really racist time.
Which was a really racist time in all the worst ways. Mm-hmm. And Lovecraft also, foreigners, especially Lovecraft, really had yellow peril really badly. And anybody from the Orient was automatically shifty and weird.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, and there's I guess you'd call it a meme now. Somebody actually had a post on Twitter talking about Lovecraft, and they said, it really ruined things for me when I found out how racist Lovecraft was. Ask me the name of Lovecraft's cat. I dare you. Ask me what Lovecraft named his cat.
Yeah, I remember.
For the audience at home, I'm not going to tell you what he named his cat, but his cat was black. Lovecraft was a racist in the 30s.
Yeah.
Do the math. So there are underpinnings of all of this that do sync up with futurist ideas about struggle. But like you said in the last episode, this wasn't just a far right or far left thing. It was everybody had this idea about vitality. Everybody was into this Darwinist. That's the reason I say Darwinist, because it was this idea that struggle is and vitality, and especially masculine vitality, was this virtue in and of itself. And that's. And so the central theme of Howard's stuff is this idea that barbarism and the frontier and wildness and man in his natural state is virile and vital and active and thus virtuous. By that math.
Right. Well,
and then on the other side, when you bring in civilization, you bring in all these tools that allow weaker people to get one over on you and get dominion through money and through, institutional power. Right. And like the church of Set in Stygia in the Conan stories is this edifice that allows, the cult who are all, weak.
The weak people
book people who are able to, and who control everybody with hypnotism and mesmerism and sorcery and
feminine thing. Yeah. Like there's a real
yin yang.
Yeah.
So yin in this case being westernized into darkness and evil, as opposed to the Eastern, which is just no, it's the receptive force. It's shadow to light.
I would like to break in for just a second because Caesar wrote in the Gallic Wars. He's attacking Celtic peoples.
Yes. Cimmerians.
Yep.
Cimmerians. I've never figured out which one is right. But
so, in the movie they called him Cimmerian, but they spell it with a C.
Yeah.
That's weird. But anyway, Caesar's attacking him, and in the very first book, all of Gaul is divided into 3 parts. Okay?
Yes.
You've got the middle part, which is the Celts, or is the Gauls. In their language, they call themselves the Celts. To the north of them, you have this group of people called the Belgae.
Yeah.
And they are I don't think he calls them barbarians in that particular book, but he calls them like the strongest and the best at fighting, because they are the furthest away from our civilization, and therefore they don't have access to the things that effeminate the mind like we do with our culture. He says that about Roman culture. Mm-hmm. And he... Well,
we civilized people in quotes, have this, have all these conveniences,
yes,
and all these luxuries, and that makes us soft.
Right. Well, Caesar's writing about that.
This is a theme.
He's writing about it 2,000 plus years ago. But what's interesting, he's setting them up as the people he's going to whoop their ass in a bit. Anyway.
Yeah.
And they're always fighting against each other.
Yeah.
And if they're not fighting against each other, they're fighting against their neighbors. Like he brings that up. But what I find interesting is that there's this word, it's virtus in Latin. Okay?
Yeah.
And it means... It translates very poorly into English. A lot of people are like, it means virtue. I'm like, no, it doesn't, because our idea of virtue is very different than the Roman idea of virtue.
We stole the word, and then
we made it
into something different, which we do with everything.
It means manliness, but it's all the good things of manliness. But the best part of it, the noun itself, is a feminine word.
Mind blown.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It really is. A lot of words that are gatherings of men, though, are feminine words. The word for legion, legio, feminine. The word for battle line, achies, feminine. I believe I might be wrong on that one. I'll look it up in a bit. The word for a band of fighters, feminine. A lot of your words that have to do with organizing men in some way are feminine words.
You think that comes down to a subconscious idea of organization being...
Could be. Could just
weird.
be groupings of people. I don't know. I don't know.
All right.
But most of the words that have to do with the mob and stuff like that, feminine.
Okay.
Multitudino, turba, all of these words, feminine.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is really strange.
Yeah.
So, it's also, I think, worth noting here that... unfortunately, because of the racist subtext of Howard's work, it has been fully co-opted in some cases by racists.
Oh, I bet.
There is a theory of the settlement of North America. That, like, nobody with a scientific background gives it any credence. It's pie in the sky fairy story bullshit. But there is this theory, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, and I unfortunately didn't have time to research it while I was looking this up. But it posits that early Proto-Celtic peoples crossed from Proto-Europe to North America. And this theory refers to them as coming from Cimmeria. They name this proto, not quite Celtic, northern but white people land, because that's the important thing to them.
Yeah, the whites were the first.
Never mind the fact that, like, whiteness itself is like an artificial construct of the 19th century, 18th century. No. But like, white people were here first.
Right.
Like, we have all the data. like there is a mountain of evidence that, like, no, you're completely wrong. But who cares?
Right.
Gotta, for the sake of our myth and our fragile white identity, we got to make sure that we were first at everything.
Right.
Never mind the fact that, let's be honest, we run the world and we've done a shitty job of it. Like, that's not enough for you.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking as a middle-aged cishet white guy, like really? Like, what more do you fucking need?
Yeah, your mediocrity is
is staggering.
Speaking of Rome.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, medium talent. I keep going back to that.
Yeah.
But so anyway.
Wow, Rome is the Chevy Chase of the ancient world.
Of the ancient world.
Yeah.
Really,
one note pony.
One note, you could say it. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that holds water. But and so there is as a fan of his work, as somebody who, like you say, sinks into the page anytime I open up what he's written. There are those moments where you run into that jarring, like,
right,
Bobby.
Here's the ugly side of masculinity.
Oh, Bobby.
Yeah.
Oh, Bobby, no.
Yeah.
Like, why did you? Why
we were all having such a good time.
We were all having a good time. Yeah, and so now I'm going to take a hard right turn.
Okay.
Because we got to talk about Ronald Reagan for a second.
Oh, that's a hard right turn.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do.
Now, because now we're talking about the Zeitgeist, because we've taken Conan from his birth in the 30s through the 70s, and why it is that folks in the 70s and the 30s were eager to read these stories. So now we're getting close to actually talking about the movie.
Okay.
And so now we got to talk about Ronnie Reagan. And I'm not going to lavish as much time on Reagan's biography as I did on Howard, because it's less important to my thesis, but it's important to know a few basics. He was born in Illinois in 1911.
Yes.
He graduated college in 1932, worked as a radio announcer for the Chicago Cubs.
Not quite. Worked as a fake announcer for the Chicago Cubs.
Yes. He made up the play-by-play based on the summaries he was getting over the wire. Yes. Now, while working for the Cubs...
I bring that up because he regularly fakes shit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Misrepresents what he actually does.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So
speaking of his fakery.
Me putting it that way was me engaging in shorthand. I mean,
sure.
The source,
Yeah.
But anyway.
I've got a hard on for Reagan. Or against him, really.
You have a hate on.
Yes.
You have a hate boner.
Cannot stand that fucker.
Have a hate boner.
I do.
For Reagan.
I have a honer.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to keep interjecting.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Yeah. So he, while working for the Cubs organization, he came out to California in 1937. He got a contract with Warner Brothers.
He convinced them that he should follow the Cubs to Catalina Island because that's where they had spring training.
Yeah.
And he convinced them that, well, because I do the play-by-play for you, which nobody checked his facts there, as people are wont to do with him.
He convinced them. He's a salesman.
Yes, he was.
Come on.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Because of that, he got to go out to LA because he knew that he wanted to go into Hollywood. It was not him falling over backward. It was, this is my goal, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And he got the Cubs to pay for it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's contracted to Warner Brothers. Yeah. This is true.
So in 1939, he was in Dark Victory with Bette Davis.
Yes.
In 1940, he was in Santa Fe Trail with Errol Flynn. I'm going to come back to that.
Yep.
And in 1942, he gained wide attention for the role he played in King's Row, where he was a double amputee, and one of his most notable lines was, "Where's the rest of me?" Which he used as the title of one of his memoirs later on. And now I say 42, and those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while know enough about history to go, wait, 42? Yes, 42. He got called up into the reserves.
Yes, he did.
And
immediately stationed in Hollywood.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So now we're going to pay you two salaries to do what you do.
He had poor eyesight.
Yes, he did.
That invalidated him for serving overseas. He got called up for active reserve duty by the Army later that year in 42.
Yep.
And worked for the military doing training films, war bond drives, and propaganda films.
So he becomes the face of a movement that he's not really a part of.
Really
Interesting thing. I have this book, and I still have it, and I plan on letting my kids read it. It's called the Look It Up Book of U.S. Presidents. I may have mentioned it in a previous...
Yeah.
In that, it talks about when he first got glasses, about how the world suddenly seemed clear to him. Because literally, and I don't have eyesight problems, so it's a privilege that I've got that I'm. He thought the world was fuzzy.
For those of you listening at home, I've just taken my glasses off.
Yeah, and I have no idea what you can see or can't see, but to Reagan, everything was fuzzy, and he put on the glasses, and he was amazed at how sharp the world was. Okay. That's what is told to me in that book that is written for kids. Yeah. None of it about the bullshit and the fuckery that he did while he was in Hollywood.
No.
None of it.
No.
Yeah.
So, he became president of the Screen Actors Guild in 1947. Mm-hmm. He served 6 terms as SAG president. He helped secure residuals for actors when TV episodes were run.
He did.
Were rerun.
That he did.
He did the same for film actors when movies got adapted to TV. Mm-hmm. And he was always a staunch anti-communist.
Yes.
He testified before the House Un-American Un-American Activities Committee about SAG, where they were asking about it, and he said, well, I think there are members who are, trying to push the organization in a direction, and we're trying to...
And here's all the names.
Yes, he did. He was an informant for the FBI.
Indeed.
What I found interesting about it was, in doing my research, because I knew kind of that, but he was conflicted about it. He didn't like the way the FBI was going about trying to have them do that.
Right.
And he was like, "Are they going to deputize all of us to do this for him? Like, I mean, is this like our second job? Like how And
no, Ron, only you care that much to do it.
Yeah. So he was a Democrat through the 1950s. He touted FDR as a personal hero at one point,
partly because of how he grew up. His family needed public assistance.
Yes. And Warner Brothers actually wound up dissuading him from participating in an anti-nuclear rally at one point. And he got hired by General Electric.
Yes.
To give motivational speeches to factory workers.
Yes.
And in that job, he was heavily influenced by the guy that was doing a lot of his... that was feeding him the information to do a lot of his writing. It was an executive by the name of Lemuel Boulware.
Now, is this the time at which he was like recording entire albums about how communism's terrible? Like literally, you could put on a B-side of his speech of how communism was terrible.
That might be a little bit later.
Okay,
might be a little bit later. But he got hired by this guy by GE to do this, and he was traveling all over the country giving hundreds of speeches a year to gatherings of GE workers, and Boulware, who was giving him the inspiration for what he was writing and what he was saying, was a free market, anti-union, low taxes, limited government conservative, and so Reagan had always been an anti-communist,
right?
The speeches that he gave were not overtly anti-union. They were not overtly he never advocated directly for we need to cut taxes on corporate interests in these speeches. But they always carried a you got to cooperate with management. We're all looking out for you. This is in the interest of your freedom as a worker. I mean,
sure.
The insidious kind of shit that we get from everybody who's always trying to say, well, what is your union? Right to work. Right. You have a right to be free about whether or not you want to stay in this job or not.
Right.
You shouldn't be bound by
we sell opportunity.
Yeah, like fuck off.
Yeah.
But and so this clearly fed into his thinking. And I mean, at some point, if we could find a geek way to tie it into something, we can talk about his weird psychology and how he turned into the patron saint of modern conservatism. Mm-hmm. But suffice to say, he quit working for GE in order to go into politics.
Right.
And he's famous for having said, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the party left me." Mm-hmm. He's full of horse shit for saying it, because that's not how it went. His ideological drift is really clear.
Yep.
In 1961, he spoke out against Medicare, saying in a recording for the AMA that it would mean the end of freedom in America.
Right.
Calling it socialism and saying, "One of these days, you and I are going to spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free."
And
like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, of course, we're speaking about this now as, you know, 2 generations later, having grown up with it being the background of our political, you know, life.
And enabling people to still engage in this beautiful thing called capitalism that he loved so much.
So desperately much.
Yes. Speaking of capitalism, let's
we got to shill something.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello, Geek Timers. This is producer George, interrupting this podcast to let you know that we have space available. This space could be used to promote your product, book, event, group, even wish a special someone happy birthday. If you're interested in using this space, please contact us on Twitter via private message at Geek History Time.
And we're back.
Yep.
So
after having sufficiently shilled.
Yes.
By the way, if you have anything, and I really do mean anything, that you would like us to push for you, to pitch, we are happy to do it. Mm-hmm. You can contact me at EH Blaylock on Twitter. Mm-hmm. You can also contact me at EH Blaylock on Instagram, if you like. And you can get both of us at once by reaching out to us on Twitter at Geek History Time.
Yes.
Damian, if they want to make a separate piece with you,
they
would reach you
at Duh Harmony on both Twitter and on Instagram. So if you're interested at all in buying some space to shill what you need, please do, because renewal fees cost
something.
And I mean, we've been entertaining you for nearly 50 episodes now.
Yeah, getting on there.
You know, frankly, it's criminal that you haven't kicked in.
When did you start working for NPR, dude? Like, holy cow. Tragedy of the Commons much? Jiminy Christmas. And you know, where else in a podcast are you going to hear a couple of nerds like us, and I mean like nerds like us, use a term like Tragedy of the Commons in the middle of talking about Conan the Barbarian?
That's, you know.
Just saying.
You've been getting it for free.
Yeah.
Kick in a couple
Time to
shekels.
buy the cow.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, something.
So.
Some analogy like that. So anyway, talking about how Reagan was like swung hard right.
Far right, yes.
He spoke out against food stamps.
Jesus Christ.
He spoke out against the Peace Corps.
Spoke
out against raising the minimum wage. Joined the NRA and became a lifetime member. Mm-hmm. Now, I am going to add one caveat there.
Okay.
This was before the NRA went batshit crazy.
So this is when they were advocating for gun control because black people had guns.
Well, no, he's the one who advocated for that, and I'm going to get into that when I talk about his time as governor of California. No, but this was when the NRA was like, you know, you need to have training, and we advocate for licensing at the state level, and, you know, hunters are our people. But, you know, I say all of this, but then he stuck around after Wayne LaPierre took over the organization, and it went completely bug-fuck crazy.
Yes.
So...
Okay.
Dad, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I got to call him like I see him.
But also, congratulations on how to use the iPhone to push that purple icon to look up your son's podcast.
Well, that's true.
You know,
yeah. All right. So he supported Goldwater. Reagan did.
Yes.
I don't think my dad did, but Reagan did.
Right.
Supported Goldwater in '64.
Yes.
And his speaking on Goldwater's behalf catapulted his political recognition.
Yeah.
Nationwide.
Right at the same time that Goldwater was falling, because Goldwater was
nuts.
Strategically inept too, because like he talked in West Virginia about cutting Social Security to a bunch of old people.
Oh yeah,
he talked he kept going to the groups that he's targeting to cutting, and then he's like, "I'm going to talk to you about it." Yeah,
like read a room, dude.
Yeah,
and then of course he was advocating for using tactical nuclear weapons in Vietnam.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
with China right there, with the Soviet Union just past China. Like,
see, this is why that LBJ commercial,
hell, yeah,
wasn't to me. Yes, it's overblown, and oh my god, that's tacky. But I could see why they said what they said
at the time.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, that was literally.
That's what Goldwater
wants. Excuse me for a moment while my bowels turn to water in realistic terror, because holy shit, that could happen. Yeah. And so he ran for governor of California. Reagan did, not Goldwater.
Right.
In '66, promising to, and I quote, I think I know what quote. I got to take them out. There's two of them.
Yeah.
Short ones.
Right.
Promising to, and I quote, put the welfare bums back to work.
Yes.
And, quote, clean up the mess at Berkeley.
Yes. Okay. Are you going to talk about the mess at Berkeley?
No.
Okay.
You fill in.
There was a part of UC Berkeley that they'd kind of just left. Basically, they got like a building code enforcement, and they get to build on it, but then I think funds dried up or something. Yeah. And so the land just essentially went fallow. Yeah. And people were dropping shit off.
Now I know the story.
It's the People's Park.
Yeah.
And so the people of Berkeley were like, well, let's make it a park for ourselves. And so they did, and then UC Berkeley sued that, and then they put up fencing around it, and it became an issue where the cops came out armed and shit. To stop the people from using a park that they themselves had created on land that wasn't theirs, but it was UC Berkeley's, therefore it was kind of
taxpayers.
And he's like, oh,
public
hell
university.
No. Yeah, we're going to destroy that. Yeah. And so that was the mess at Berkeley. Now, putting the welfare freaks back to work, he made a speech where he said, and I'm going to... Yeah, bumps. Sorry.
I'll point out.
Yeah.
Pejorative term for, the unemployed,
right.
Anybody financially
right.
in tough straits.
But he made a speech where he said, I saw this young man with hair down to his shoulders or something to that effect, and he said that they take care of you from birth to 18, and then again from, I think it's like 65 on, right? He said, so you only got to worry about this many years of making any money. And, he's like making fun of the math of that, right?
Yeah.
Because then the system will take care of you at both ends. And he says, so you got a man who talks like Tarzan, smells like Cheetah, and dresses like Jane. Everybody fucking loved it. Oh my God, they loved it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's when he's running for governor.
Yeah. And then as governor.
Oh.
Because that shit got him elected.
Yep.
In 1967.
He beat Jerry Brown's dad, by the way. Edmund Brown.
Yeah. As governor. Now, I'm a Second Amendment guy. As much as I think the NRA is a batshit loony organization, I am a Second Amendment guy. And this pisses me off.
See, I'm a Third Amendment guy.
Okay.
So, this isn't my issue.
Yeah, okay. He signed legislation in 1967 that eliminated a law that allowed for open carry in California.
But Ed, why was he doing that?
Because Huey Newton and the Black Panthers had been exercising their Second Amendment rights in the face of systemic police violence against their community.
Over 80% of the police force in Oakland was white, and they were way over patrolling black neighborhoods.
Yeah. And so the Panthers basically said, you know what? If you're going to come around here and act like you can shoot us with impunity, understand we are going to exercise our rights as citizens, and that might not go for you the way you think. And so that was terrifying and scary, and unlike, responsible, law-abiding gun owners, we can't have them walking around doing that because, they're
black.
They're not white people. Yeah. And so he is the one.
Yep.
The poster boy saint of the NRA and modern conservatism is the one who eliminated open carry in California because racism.
Yes.
Fuck that noise. Anyway, Moving on. He ran in the Republican primaries for president in 76.
Challenging
Ford. And he lost by a margin I found remarkable.
Yeah. Being an incumbent really helps.
It really helps. And then in 1980, he ran again, and now we're back to my thesis.
And he beat Bush, by the way.
Yes.
In the famous "I'm paying for this microphone" speech.
Yeah. And then co-opted Bush to get the moderate wing of the party back under his wing.
That's right. Bush was the moderate.
Bush was the moderate. Well, we're talking about Bush Sr.
Right. But, okay, Bush Sr. had previously been the head of the CIA.
Yeah.
Bush Sr. had previously been...
He was a party apparatchik.
Yeah, I was going to say, he'd worked his way up the party.
Way up through the party.
And the two of them had a compassion off, by the way, about people seeking asylum from Mexico. Mm-hmm. They both were like trying to run to the more compassionate.
Trying to look more open-hearted. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is back when the Republican Party was rightist, but not bugfuck crazy fascist.
Right.
You know, I mean, yeah. They were latent low-key racist, not like overtly white supremacist like our current president and one of his closest advisors are now.
Yes.
So, anyway, in 1980, as that election is going on, the country is in really bad psychic shape.
Yeah.
Stagflation, low growth rate combined with high inflation rates left millions of Americans frustrated and anxious financially.
And way more male deer than we'd ever seen before just standing still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Jesus. Good day. What's the time mark on that one?
55 minutes in.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You're slipping. So in 80 itself, the country was in a recession with negative 0.3% growth.
Yep.
12.5% inflation.
Yes.
Which, if you don't know about inflation figures, you're like, well, 12.5%? I don't know. That's huge.
It's enormous.
That's mugly.
That's everything going up by an eighth.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's horrible. And 7% unemployment. Mm-hmm. American embassy employees were being held hostage in Iran. Deeply traumatic situation for the nation's sense of power and ability on the world stage. That had started in November 7th of 79. We'd seen the fall of Saigon only 5 years earlier.
Right.
In April of 75, the epilogue to a divisive, ugly, demoralizing war, which we had unequivocally lost.
Right.
Like there was no arguing about we got bled white.
I assume since you're talking about Reagan, you're going to talk about Grenada.
Actually, it doesn't come up.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's
that's after.
If we're talking about Reagan, it'd be important. But we're talking about the Zeitgeist that led to him getting elected.
Right.
Nixon had resigned in 74.
In disgrace,
which we've discussed because he got caught with his pants down.
He got caught doing crimes. Telling other people to do crimes. Covering up the crimes. Like at every level. Yeah.
He was so guilty, and there was like no way he could get out from under it.
Well, because the Republican Party went to him and said, "Hey, we need to do governance, and you're bad for the party now. So we need you to leave, so that we can get back to doing governance,
to doing our job, which is running the country." Yeah. So as we discussed in your episode about possession movies, that left public trust in government at a historic low.
Yes.
There was the oil crisis of 79. There was the 3 Mile Island incident, also in 79.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
SALT happened in 79 because we thought we had a missile gap and the Russians were going to win the Third World War if it ever happened. We boycotted the 80 Olympics because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, leaving the Soviets to make an unprecedented medal haul to no answer from our own athletes.
Right.
National morale was at a desperately low ebb, is what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
We were, for the first time since the end of World War II, we were feeling powerless and threatened, and the threats were nebulous and sorcerous, and the world was dark, and there was all this stuff happening. And for an individual citizen on the street, an individual 30-year-old guy who was unemployed or whose job was threatened because the Japanese were coming, all of this stuff, there were these forces that were vague and you couldn't put your finger on them, but they left you insecure. And as a country,
you needed a win.
You needed a win.
Yeah.
As a country, we felt powerless.
Right. Also in 1980, Han Solo gets stuck in carbonite.
Yeah.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Unable to move. Impotent.
Yeah. Impotent.
Frozen in pain.
Powerless in
Luke
pain.
loses his hand.
Yeah.
The dark side is winning.
Yeah.
The rebels are scattered.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me how 1980 that movie was.
Oh yeah.
And how
now that you pointed out,
yeah,
pattern on the wallpaper again.
Yep.
That's what it is. Yeah,
it might be an episode.
Yeah,
because we have
at this point it has to be.
Yeah, it kind of does. Jesus. Yeah.
So and the sad part about this is Carter took the blame.
He also got attacked by a swamp rabbit.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So he didn't look very strong.
That didn't help, but largely undeserved.
True.
I mean, so much of this was like, I'm trying to put out so many fires at once.
Right. That someone else...
And the forces that drove all of this were not anything he was responsible for.
And yet he took responsibility.
Yeah.
I just want to say that again.
Because the buck stopped there.
He took responsibility.
Yeah. And so his administration hadn't managed to get a handle on all of these forces that were lashing at our confidence.
Oh, and back it up just a hair with... speaking of swamp rabbits.
Yeah.
Is...
a very aggressive hair.
A very aggressive hair. But
attacked by a rabbit, for fuck's sake.
He couldn't fight it off.
Like as an adult now,
yeah,
I admire him deeply.
Yeah.
But like dude couldn't catch a break.
No, he really couldn't.
Yeah. So anyway.
And here's the thing, he was very dovish.
Oh, intensely.
Okay? And
despite being a Navy veteran.
Right.
Like
maybe because he was a Navy veteran.
Probably because he was a Navy veteran, but he still is.
But he made peace between Israel and Egypt. He did that. He was up for 48 hours before the inauguration of Reagan, specifically because he was trying to get the troops home, or not troops, the hostages freed.
Home. Only, to find out that, the Reagan people had made a deal behind
Bush,
his back
who had connections with the CIA and the oil company that was shown.
With British Petroleum and everything. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes. So undercut by, wow, imagine if someone were to do that and it came out in real time, we'd have to try them for treason. One would think.
One would think.
Yeah.
One would really think.
Or even after the fact, you ought to try them for treason.
Yeah.
But he was dovish. And I think
immensely.
the fact that he was, because what was it? Not a single bullet fired, not a single bomb dropped under his presidency.
Yeah, during the 4 years he was in
office.
There's
a 4-year gap of killing brown people in the world.
Yes.
Because of Carter. That peacefulness didn't sit well
looked weak.
Yeah, when everyone is really anxious and upset.
When everybody's anxious and upset, a scared man's picture of courage does not look like that.
A brave man's picture of peace does.
Yeah.
And that's not what we were.
Yeah, and I think Yeah, so now is probably a good time to
Is this your wrestling
pause.
Episode?
This might be.
Nice.
This very
I've been
well
waiting for
be.
a magnum opus.
Yeah, so it's funny that it's about this and not something Tolkien related, but here we are. This just caught me by the forelock and wouldn't let go until I'd gotten it all out. But so now that we've paused here,
sure.
What do you have right now? Or do you want to hold off on anything until?
No, I think I can definitely. I see where the pieces are falling into place.
Yeah.
I see, because
we haven't even started talking about the fucking movie.
I know. But Reagan is an avatar for masculinity.
Oh yeah.
In all of the worst possible ways. And he is amoral. He is.
He didn't portray himself that way, but he was.
Yeah, but so he pretended to be everything.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But he is amoral. He is an opportunist, and he's not graceful. Dude broke his leg like in 6 different places doing a stunt. But which is, cool, man. Like I've broken my nose way too many times for it to be accidental, it seems. So
kind of starting to think you like taking shots at the Beezer. I'm just saying.
I don't.
I don't
But
think you're out here for the hunting. That's what I'm saying.
But Reagan is this avatar for I'm gonna say fragile masculinity.
With our
understanding,
hindsight,
looking back, yes,
yeah.
And at the time, he didn't present that at all. He looked tough, cowboy, and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's interesting.
That's why I tagged Santa Fe Trail.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that and that he's in there with Errol Flynn of all people. But I think it's interesting that
sorry.
Yeah. I think
there is a certain poetry to that. Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that Reagan is the president at a time where John Milius steps onto the floor as a director, where Oliver Stone steps onto the floor as a screenwriter, where Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No. Damn it!
Sorry.
Right. No,
I grew up with this fucking movie.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Where
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Universe.
Right. Yeah. Where you have all of this appearance of hypermasculinity, when in fact it's not. It's one dimensional at best, and all the pieces are lining up for these one-dimensional characters. So I'm enjoying the ride in getting there, and I'm starting to see what's coming.
Glad to hear that. Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah. You reading anything different from last time?
Nope. Still Dune.
Okay.
Still
cool.
Still trying to find. I'm like this thesis leapt out at me. Fully formed like Athena from the head of Zeus. Dune is giving me a little bit of trouble because it's a central part of the science fiction canon. And because of that, it's been analyzed backward, forward, left, right, center, and trying to find an original toehold to get on it is proving tough. But I know that there's so much going on there that, that I need to find some way to say something about it. And yeah.
My 2 newest purchases of Order of the Stick just came in.
Nice.
And so I haven't started them, but they're the last 2 installments. Okay. I don't know if they're the final installments, but they're the most recent 2 installments.
I am literally years behind on that.
When you return my wrestling comic book, I will let you borrow my Oots.
Okay.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with Durkan. I'm a little tired of Belkar. He's fairly one-dimensional. Durkan has taken on, but he was funny. Durkan has taken on an incredible story arc, and that's really fun to read. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think I might actually kick the first volume over to my daughter.
All right,
because she loves her some D&D, and I think she'll get the jokes.
I think so.
So, by the way,
cool.
No, everything's been canceled. Never mind. Okay. I was going to say, I was going to plug a show that I'm going to be on.
And
Nope, never mind.
No.
So
not happening right now.
If you're listening to this and you're getting ready to go to the capital punishment at the Punchline, it's no longer on May 22nd. It's on April 26th.
Okay.
So hopefully by then everything will have
Fingers
cleared up.
Crossed.
Yeah.
We can hope.
Yeah. But right now it's scheduled for April 26th.
All right.
So please buy tickets and help me keep the lights on here, and it'll be a good Christmas.
All right.
So, well, for Geek History of Time, I'm Damian Harmony.
And I'm Ed Blaylock. And until next time, keep rolling 20s.